What is up guys, Andy Forestine Runner here, and today is all about the Saucony KINVARA 11 and how they get on with the speed test and the long run test. So for the speed test in the Saucony KINVARA 11, we are doing a little tempo run 5 days after baby was born, so I'm quite tired today. I'm not going to push it too much, but the keen thing that I'll be keeping an eye on is how these shoes feel when we pick up the pace, because they're just really not fun in the warm-up. They're really quite a dull shoe. So let's see how they get on in the tempo run. We're on the trails behind Hayward, behind the gym, so quite rolling, which is perfect. Less than 4 weeks out from Forestine Half Marathon, so we're going to be mocking some of the route that we will have. Although this isn't the route, there are some good hills to practice some tempo work on and hopefully get us stronger and ready for race day. So I will press on and I will let you know how we get on in the summary at the end. So there we go, speed test done and dusted in the Saucony KINVARA 11. 6 mile tempo run in and around the rolling trails of and roads of Hayward in Snitterford. Felt great on the tempo run. Shoes, they're just like running in Converse. I was really hoping that the speed test would show me a different side to them. Yes, it's nice that they're lightweight, but there certainly is nothing special about these shoes so far. A sad experience, but we still have a long run to go. Not holding out much hope. Okay, so we are out. It is Saturday and we are doing the long run test in the Saucony KINVARA 11. So today is a bit of a shorter long run, just because I'm on a bit of a time restraint, but it's still going to be a decent 13-14 miles. And I've got to say straight off the bat, I was quite saddened as to how they felt yesterday on the speed session, despite the speed session being the best tempo session I've done on those trails, pace-wise. It just felt like I was running in a pair of Converse. So it wasn't great, but I've got to say, today, out on the trails, and some of the concrete as well, they feel a little bit better. Not quite as hard, not quite as unforgiving, and they're giving me a little bit more back than they were in the first couple of runs. So maybe, just maybe, this is a shoe that needs to be broken into. Obviously I'll touch base with you towards the end of the long run to let you know how we got on, but just giving you my kind of, we're at mile 3.5, giving you my first impressions whilst we're out here. It's feeling a little bit better. Let's hope that continues. So there we go, just wrapping up the long run in the Saucony KINVARA 11. It's going to be 13 miles today. 13 pleasant miles. They've warmed up. They're not great, but they've warmed up. But either way, I will give you my full feedback back at the office. So 8 miles done and dusted for the speed test and 13 miles done and dusted for the long run test in the Saucony KINVARA 11. And as you can see, we got the KINVARA 11 rather dirty in that long run test. So today I'm going through with my thoughts with you guys on how this thing fared on the speed test and the long run test, and what my final thoughts are with this shoe, and will I even take it to 100 miles? Well, let's dive into all of that now. So if you're excited for today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, and do consider subscribing to the channel for weekly running content. And without further ado, we'll start with how it fared in the speed test. So for those of you who follow the channel and follow my weekly training vlogs, you'll know I'm training for the Forest Dean Spring Trails Half Marathon, which is currently coming up in about 3.5 weeks time. So I've got a little loop that I'm running at the moment on a Friday where I'm going to do a run and do a gym, and just behind the gym there's some lovely rolling undulating trails which I'm doing 2 loops of, because it's about 3.5 miles worth of trail, and it is just perfect, almost cross-country-esque type of down up. It's just phenomenal. And we've been doing tempo runs around there, progressing the tempo runs up through the plan to get myself used to running on the trails. And before anyone says, yes, I'm very aware this is a road shoe, but the trails around here predominantly is so runnable that I use all of my road shoes around here on the trails. And this thing ended up producing some of the quickest times that I have done on my tempo run, and I felt really, really good. However, I'm not going to accredit it to this shoe, if I'm completely honest with you. I kind of feel like my fitness level is kind of at a place now where week 5 in the plan, I'm starting to get used to the hills, I'm starting to feel good. And I've got to be honest with you, as you saw at the end of my run, I just felt like I was running in a pair of Converse, a pair of skate shoes. I think there are a couple of factors as to why I feel like that. The 4mm drop certainly is lower than maybe some of the other shoes I'm running in, 6mm and 8mm drops. So the 4 is certainly noticeable in this shoe for me personally. And the midsole is so firm, in my opinion, that it really does feel like a pair of Converse. So when I actually took the shoes off after the 8-mile run and slipped into my Ultra Boosts, my feet were throbbing a little bit. They did hurt, I'm not going to lie. Now I was clocking 640 pace going up the hills per minute mile and 610s on the rolling, undulating section. So we were moving at a fair lick, and I'm not going to lie, I did, although I felt good and comfortable, I did feel like the shoe was not giving me anything in return. You all know what I mean in this new day and age where we get shoes that either have Meta Rocker designs, they're a bit more ergonomically designed to give us back what we put in. The Nike Vaporfly Next Percent and Alphafly is a perfect example of energy return. I just get nothing from this shoe. There's just nothing. And I know daily trainers aren't meant to really be providing you with that oomph, but there are certain daily trainers like the 1080 V10 where I just feel like there's a bit of pop in the shoe that allows me to move a bit quicker if I wanted to. And this thing just feels so lethargic. So although we did really well in the speed test in terms of the workout itself, I did not enjoy the shoe in the slightest. So that then led me on to the long run, to which, to be perfectly honest with you, I was dreading a little bit. I was thinking to myself, well, I've already had 2 runs in the shoe, I've not enjoyed it, how is it going to get better, especially as on my first impressions when I was running relatively easy, it just felt naff. Interestingly enough, after mile 2 or 3, the shoe started to warm up a little bit. The midsole got a little bit more responsive, not massively, but I seem to remember thinking to myself around mile 2, 2.5, just before I was about to start filming for my weekly vlog, I thought to myself, this feels a little bit different. This doesn't feel quite like the lethargic flat skate shoe that I've been reporting back to you guys and thinking in my head, but suddenly starting to feel a little bit more like a running shoe. Now, we ended up completing the 13 miles, doing a bit of a course recce of the Forest of Dean Spring Trails Half Marathon. So we were running that course in these shoes, and it didn't feel too bad. Towards the end, I was actually feeling quite comfortable in the shoe, and all the negative thoughts that I had about the shoe had kind of disappeared, and just I was left with just what I would call a bog standard running shoe. So my overall thoughts after finishing the run were, I mean, they didn't cause me any pain, it felt great, it fitted well. If you have a really wide foot, I don't think, as I said in my first impressions, it's going to be the shoe for you, because my little toe does sit very tightly against the edge of the material there, but it was pretty good. Now, I've got to say that I would choose a 1080 V10 anytime, and I'm not trying to compare the shoes, but I'm just trying to give you an example of an innovative shoe that New Balance have come out with, which just feels good on the go, to a shoe that just feels a little bit flat, which is this one. But I'm not going to lie, we got the 13 miles done. My feet didn't hurt on this occasion, so I don't know if that was me picking up the pace. I don't know if that was the hills. I was having to work harder because obviously with the 4mm drop going up hills, my calves were going to be working a lot harder. The hills that we were running on the Forest of Dean Trails Half Marathon, yes, there was some at the same intensity, but I was running them a lot, same gradient, but I was running them a lot slower, so I was taking my time. My feet actually didn't hurt, and I got home quite pleasantly surprised that the shoe actually held up. I'm not going to give it massive credit and say that it felt really, really good and I can't wait to get back out in it again, because to be perfectly honest with you, it's not a shoe that I am looking at and thinking, I want to run in this thing again, because being completely honest with you, I don't. But it is a shoe that I got to the end of my long run and I thought to myself, okay, maybe you're a shoe that's going to take a little bit of time to warm up. So I kind of left feeling with questions, more questions than answers in this shoe. So where does that leave me moving forward with the Kinvara 11? Well, as I said, it's left me with more questions than answers, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt with the fact that the midsole started to feel like it was warming up. And what I would really like to do in this shoe is I'd like to do some shorter, sharper reps on the concrete, on the pavement, maybe some kilometre repeats, something like that, because I kind of felt like when I did the strides, they really opened up, they really felt good. But yet when I was running at a tempo pace, which is obviously a bit slower than what I would be running the strides in, it didn't feel as good. So I'm wondering if I need to be running in my range in and around the 5:20 to 5:30 minute miling to see how this shoe fares. I feel like I need to give it another crack at the speed test. And in terms of the long run, I probably would use it again on the long run, but it's not a shoe that I would probably go to pick up for an easy run. So I think you're going to take you're going to find it's going to take me a while to get to 100 miles in this shoe. I am determined to get to 100 miles in this shoe, but it's going to take a while because it's not a shoe that I'm going to gravitate towards. I'm either going to take a while or I'm just going to think, do you know what, just get it done, get to 100 miles, and then I can give it an early retirement, because it's not a shoe that I'm completely inspired in. So sadly, it kind of has been the first shoe that I've come away and gone, I could quite happily send this thing back. I'm pleased that it's warming up, but for me, it's not warmed up enough for me to say, yeah, it's a really decent shoe. So obviously, would I recommend it? I know loads of people out there that commented on the first video, you do run it, you do like it. For me though, it's just not a shoe for me, sadly. So those are my thoughts. That's what's happened on the speed test and the long run test. But as always, I'd love to know in the comments below if you use the shoe and where you like to use it most. Is it the speedy work? Is it the long runs? Let me know in the comments below. So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, and do consider subscribing to the channel for weekly running content. And as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then.